Narcissists are full-grown adults that really, on the inside, operate like little children. Welcome to Looking Behind the Mirror, where we explore narcissism and take our lives back as we make sense out of nonsense. As a quick disclaimer, everything I say is based on my opinions and my personal experiences. I'm not a professional, and if you're really struggling, I encourage you to seek professional help. I am providing links below for you. Even the most mature, accomplished, distinguished, educated, talented narcissist has a very childlike behavior underneath that facade. Even the most intimidating narcissist really is very childlike underneath it all. And it can be really hard to see this childishness because you are looking at a full-grown adult. You are looking at someone that sounds like an adult and has an adult vocabulary and probably lives an adult-like life. But if you really look at the attitudes that they have and the ways that they communicate, they really don't have the full maturity of an adult that an adult has built over their lifetime. And unfortunately for a lot of us, this can sometimes come off as cute or charming, to meet somebody that has a boyish charm, or to meet somebody that has a childlike excitement over certain things. But there are important things to look out for. While it is possible for a full-grown, functional adult to have a childlike attitude in certain circumstances, it's important to be able to tell the difference between that and somebody that has the emotional maturity of a child. Narcissists, like children, have a lack of depth. They approach life with a very shallow viewpoint. This means that they lack empathy and they have an extremely hard time understanding the viewpoint of somebody else. When a child lacks empathy, when a child gravely misunderstands the experience of another person, it can be humorous, it can be cute, but it's anything but humorous and cute when a full-grown adult seems completely clueless about what somebody else is going through. Narcissists are kind of stuck in a childlike state. They have an inability to mature, an inability to grow. This is largely because they're unable to self-reflect, because self-reflection requires accountability for what we've done. It requires acknowledging things that we could do better as we go along, which means acknowledging mistakes. And this is a big part of why narcissists really can't mature, because narcissists can't recognize anything that they've done that isn't already perfect or as wonderful as it could have possibly ever been. If you were to hurt someone or make a bad decision or embarrass yourself or ruin a relationship or sabotage an opportunity or say something stupid, put your foot in your mouth, or just make a mistake, you're more likely to learn from that experience. You're likely to step back and examine what you've done and say to yourself, well, I shouldn't have done that. If anything like that ever happens again, I will do this instead. I won't make that same mistake again. Whereas a narcissist's reaction is to blame everybody else. Well, if this person hadn't done this thing, and if that hadn't happened that way, and if this person hadn't have set me up, then none of this would have happened. This is all everybody else's fault. If everybody else would just behave differently, if everybody else would just do better, then I wouldn't have any problems. And this is very similar to how a little child behaves. Little children have a really hard time self-reflecting and admitting when they've made mistakes. But even a little child is more likely to be able to learn from their mistakes and not repeat the same mistakes next time, because a little child is actually learning and developing and growing into an adult, whereas a narcissist is really just stuck in that stage. Like little children, narcissists engage in magical thinking, or they live in their own little fantasy land. This is a place where everything will just magically work out, where tomorrow will never come, where there won't be any real consequences, where somehow the mortgage is going to get paid by magic. Somebody will think of something. Somebody will come along and save the day at the last moment. Nothing bad is ever really going to happen because I'm invincible. Little children live in the present moment. They don't think about tomorrow. They don't think about how the things that they're doing right now are going to affect somebody an hour from now, or a week from now, or a year from now. Little children don't think about that, and neither do narcissists. This is why little children and narcissists are focused on instant gratification. They're always focused on how they feel right now in this very moment, because the way that they think and view the world, there is nothing else but the present moment. There is nothing else that really matters but how they feel right now. And the ends always justify the means, because the means are just what they want right now, and the ends are whatever it takes to make them feel good right now, because that's all that ever exists. Little children, like narcissists, also are extremely self-centered. And this means that they're very focused on their ego, and they're very easily offended, and they take everything personally. Little children think that the world revolves around them. It takes a certain level of maturity. I think probably all of us remember certain stages in our growth where it dawned on us that we were not the center of the universe, and that, quote, nobody cares. Narcissists never really had this moment of clarity. Narcissists still think that the world revolves around them, and that everything happens because of them or for them, just like a little child. This is why if you do something that annoys them, they perceive that as something that was done because it annoys them, something that was done with them in mind. Like a little child, they can't step back and consider that certain things that may seem annoying to them are not done with them in mind, but just happen to have been done for different reasons, and that sometimes it's best to just tolerate things that aren't that big of a deal. And like little children, narcissists have extremely poor emotional regulation. They cannot regulate their own emotions. They need to look to other people to help them. Just like a little child needs grown-ups or caregivers to help calm them down, to help them sort through their thoughts and their feelings and emotions, narcissists cannot do this on their own. But as a grown adult, they've passed the stage where people really need to keep stopping and helping them through all of these emotional problems that they can't figure out. It's one thing if a 2-year-old is sitting in the middle of a grocery store screaming their lungs out. It's another when a grown adult can't stop throwing a temper tantrum over something that has nothing to do with him or her. At some point, a functional human being has to start taking accountability for their own emotions, and has to start taking care of themselves, and has to stop pushing the responsibility of how they feel onto everyone around them. And like little children, narcissists have unrealistic expectations. They get fantasies built up in their heads. And this is really cute with little children. When little children imagine fantastic, unrealistic, ridiculously self-centered things are going to happen for them, you kind of feel bad for a little kid that's disappointed when reality hits them. But when a grown adult has fantasies that these fantastic, amazing, impossible things are going to happen to them, you kind of wonder, how could you think that? And another childish behavior that we can see in a lot of narcissistic individuals is a kind of gleeful, sadistic attitude. We may see children playing practical jokes, or maybe we can see this a lot with little children that are picking on their siblings and causing distress in their siblings, and then showing a lot of glee over this. We can actually see this in narcissistic adults sometimes, where they will torment people or pick on people or just act in a very obnoxious way, and they take this sort of gleeful, sadistic attitude with it, where they just really find a lot of satisfaction and pleasure in annoying another human being. I'm not saying that anyone that likes to play practical jokes is a narcissist, but there's just a line that you shouldn't cross, and I think a lot of narcissists really like to push it to where they're actually causing real distress in another human being, and they're actually taking a lot of pleasure in that. Children are extremely insensitive to the needs of other people, and of course we give them a pass for that because they're little children. But grown adult narcissists are also extremely insensitive. And when a grown adult is just as insensitive as a little child, that's when it can really become alarming and problematic. And as I mentioned earlier, temper tantrums. It's normal to see a little child throw a temper tantrum over some trivial, silly little thing that upset them. It's quite another to see a grown adult fly into a rage because you bought the wrong brand of hot dog buns. Children have an inability to form meaningful, deep, authentic relationships. They're still forming those skills. Children's relationships are very transactional, they're very shallow, and of course we give them a pass for that because they're just little children. They only have so much emotional understanding, and it's perfectly forgivable and expected that we as adults love our little children in a much more meaningful, stable, safe, accepting way than the love that we expect to receive back from little children. As little children grow, they start to develop those same tools that adults already have, and as they grow, they're able to build a more meaningful, stable, loving, mutually reciprocal relationship. Narcissists don't do this. Narcissists never learn how to build a meaningful relationship. Narcissists never go beyond the transactional stage of a relationship, and they never really learn to give back anything because they remain stuck in that mindset that a relationship means that people love me and people are taking care of me and people are focused on me and doing what I need and giving me what I need, just like a little child. They never grow up out of that into the place where now it's my turn to give back. And how many of you have been very close with a narcissist in your life and noticed that they hate waiting in line for anything? Now, I'm not saying that if you don't like waiting in line that you must be a narcissist, but this is something that I've noticed in almost every narcissistic person that I've known, to a point where it's actually kind of funny. Anytime they've ever had to wait in line for anything, it's like the perfect kind of torture for them. And this really speaks to their impatience, which is very childlike. Children are very impatient. They certainly don't want to stand around in a line doing nothing, getting bored, because what did I say earlier? Everything's always about the present moment. Everything's always about how they feel right now, right this minute. And standing around waiting in a line is like the perfect form of torture for them because they're being forced to stand there in an uncomfortable situation for no return because they're not really thinking about, in a few minutes, this is all going to pay off. It's really difficult for them to internalize that emotionally and not be extremely agitated at every moment that they have to waste standing in a line. And of course, there is entitlement. Children feel entitled to anything they want simply because they want it. We've probably all tried to explain to a 3-year-old why they can't have a 4th or 5th cookie, but we don't expect children to understand or agree with our reasoning when we tell them that they can't have the things that they're asking for. But we do expect grown adults to understand and accept that sometimes they can't have everything they want. Well, narcissists never really learned this and never really accepted this. And so just like a little child, narcissists live their lives with an extreme pathological sense of entitlement to absolutely everything they could ever want. When we are dealing with a pathological narcissist, we're dealing with someone who is a little child on the inside. And no matter how many of these behaviors we can see in them, all of them are always going to be justified and they're all going to be blamed on you. Narcissists, like little children, are practically incapable of taking accountability for themselves. And narcissists, unlike little children, are unable to grow and learn. They are unable to ever build on what is supposed to be a very basic foundation of who they are. They are stuck there for the rest of their lives. A little angry, selfish, immature, entitled child stuck in the body of a full-grown adult. I hope that you can remember this when you're faced with a narcissist that is harshly criticizing you, that is tearing you down, that is making you feel unlovable, like you're not good enough, like nothing you do can ever measure up, like you don't deserve to be listened to and you don't deserve validation and love. You're dealing with someone who really is a little child inside. And if you expected a little child to validate you and make you feel like a worthwhile human being and even to love you, you would be leaving yourself open to a lot of hurt. And this is really what we're doing when we expect a narcissistic person to provide these things for us. Narcissists really don't have any emotional tools that are any more advanced than those of a little child. And it's really easy to forget this when we're looking at someone that appears to be a full-grown adult. But I hope that you'll remember this when you start to judge yourself based on the behavior of someone who is stuck in a childlike mentality. I hope this helps. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and comment below any ideas you have for me for future videos. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you like this video and you would like to see more like it in the future. Until next time, thanks. Bye.